Hey everyone, today we are going over revisiting the Marine World tier lists. So we're going to start with the sponsors that come with the Marine World expansion for Ark Nova, then we're going to do the action cards after that. We last did this video about 4 or 5 months ago before Marine World came to Arena, but I put it up to vote to you guys to see what video you wanted to see today. I think 40% of you voted for an updated tier list, so here we are. And the reason I don't mind doing it is the last video was obviously before we had a ton of games played on Marine World. Now that a full arena season has gone by, I have a lot more insight or perspective as to what's good or not. I feel confident in justifying my picks a bit more. And secondly, the last video had a bit of an audio issue with JD. And it also had JD influencing some of the cards in questionable ways. So here we are. Hello everyone that's here. Hello Harbortack. Hello STD. Don't ask about the YouTube fan stuff. I have no idea. It's their attempt at getting more engagement, which I guess kind of works. I don't know. Primarily had a JD issue. One of the action cards we'll talk about, but we are going to start with sponsors. We're starting with sponsors because we actually have some statistics to back up the action cards, so we'll look at that after we do all the tier lists. But anyway, we'll quickly go through the sponsors, starting with Amazon House, which I think if you guys have watched me play, pretty clearly the #1 new sponsor card from Marine World. It just gives a ridiculous amount of points. It's a great mid to late game card. The only issue is going to be fitting it onto your map, but if it does fit onto your map, then it's just 10 points for free, basically, and the animal tags you get with it can actually be surprisingly useful in helping you get to a Herbivores 5 or a Primates 5 or something. The requirements aren't too bad in the mid to late game. Most of the time, we upgrade sponsors anyway. The Americas tag, whatever. The 6-drop is not a problem in the late game most of the time. And yeah, just crazy amounts of points. And on top of that, the rock and the water icon, which helps with aquarium, cable car, all that. Diversity researcher. Yeah, ridiculous. But all the new sponsors are fairly good, I think. So Conference on Australia also not too bad. When I did the very first tier list, I had it really low. When we did the second tier list, we had it pretty high, and it's still fairly high. I'm not going to say it's S tier, but it's definitely A tier. Australia icons are much better in Marine World. They have a ton of the reef animals, a ton of the really good reef animals. And then just the ability to increase your enclosure size itself is a great ability. You get a 2 size reward during the break. You play an Australia animal, you can make that an awkward 3 size. It normally takes a whole build action to make. Then you get the other bonus of if the enclosure is already full, you just get 2 appeal, which is a lot of appeal. It's like the same as having a meerkat den and playing a herbivore sort of appeal. And then it also has the bonus endgame of 1 appeal for every card you've pouched. Which might not seem amazing, but on a map like Ice Cream Pulse, where you have the pouching ability on the map, it's pretty damn good, actually. But just pretty solid A tier. Whoops. Conference on Europe. Not the worst, not the best. It's okay. So when you play it, and every time you play a Europe icon, you get to mark a card on the display. Just basically like semi-reserve it for yourself. Which mark is a decent ability. It's surprisingly useful. Just oftentimes I forget about it. You just play a random Europe animal and get a mark ability from it, which is just sometimes useful in the mid to late game. The instant benefit of giving you money for the amount of Europe tags is not that relevant. You always get at least 2 money. Sometimes you get 5. Very rarely you get 10. The end game, I mean, if you upgrade association, then the end game is pretty free. You just need to donate 3 times. But it's not one that I'd be insta-keeping out of the opening hand or anything unless Europe was a base project or habitat diversity was a base project. So think it's a pretty solid D, maybe lower D tier. Excavation site. This one has definitely gone up in my rankings. It can get you off to some pretty amazing starts. So it has the obvious combinations of something like outdoor areas where you can just grab 2 partner zoos with it. But there's also some really good spots on other maps. One that comes to mind is Hollywood Hills. There's a great spot in the top left corner where you can get an extra 5 money and an X token, or an extra 5 money and a reputation from one sponsor building. It gives you a pretty useful science icon. It also has an end game that you're hitting most games. So just really solid. It has an awkward shape, which is why I thought it would be sort of hard to use, but when you know the right spots for it, it can be fantastic. So I would have it low S tier still, I think. Starting off with a lot of the good ones first, because expansion area also fantastic. Amazing even. Better than Expert on Europe, the conference on Europe. I think it is slightly better. Expansion area though. This gives you a 5 size for free. I mean, it gives you a 3 size for free, but then it says that all of your 3 sizes on the edge of your map count as 5 sizes. This really helps you when, in a lot of examples, say when you're running out of space on your map. It can be, on certain maps, it can be hard to fit all those 5 size enclosures in. It's also great if you have something like a naturalist endgame or a native farm animals played and you're trying to maximize as many endgame shields from that card. And then it's just also cheaper to build a 5 size. You just need to build a 3 size and chuck it on the edge of your map and it's a 5 size. It just needs the sponsors upgrade, which again is not a big deal. But easily S tier. I'd say it's quite comfortably the second best card in the Marine World expansion, behind Amazon House, but ahead of Excavation Site. Depending on your hand and how many big animals you have in it, I mean, it could definitely be snap worthy, but it's one that you probably look to keep out of the opening hand if you can. Onto the worst end of the spectrum, Farm Cat. Bit of a meme card. It's really hard to get 5 appeal from it. You have to work so hard just to get 5 appeal. I've gotten 3 appeal a few times, particularly on ice cream piles. It's not too difficult to get 3 appeal. But you mainly play it for the Predator tag, and honestly, the end game on it is not the worst. It has a lot of ceiling. You can get 3 endgame shields out of it, but it means you have to build kiosks that aren't particularly well placed. I mean, maybe it's the end of the game and you're just getting some random kiosks from Expert on Americas or something, and you can place them in empty spots, and then you get endgame shields from this card. But yeah, it's not one that you look to keep from an opening hand unless Predators is a base project. It's not one you look to snap up from the display or anything. It's still clearly F tier. It just has some use. Yeah, Excavation Site is... Even on Silver Lake, Excavation Site has a really nice spot to get, I think, 6 extra money in a reputation. Second best sponsor. The fish ones are coming up. One of the fish ones, Field Research type the Orcas. 3 rep and a science tag is nice. Just the requirements can be a bit tricky. If you already have an aquarium and a sea animal, then yeah. Has a really good payoff of 3 reputation. The rep's even more important because, particularly in Marine World, when you start with the animal universities, you get the science tag, but you don't get the reputation that comes with the normal science tier rep uni. So now this is a way of sort of accommodating that. Helps you get the upgrade on 5 reputation, helps you get your second worker on 8 reputation. Or just a good late game boost to get to, say, the 16 rep reward. It's not really a card that you plan your game around. I know I played a game on Wednesday and one of the opponents started with the Sea Animal University just to play field research type the Orcas. I don't think it's meant to be that sort of card, but it's just solid if you have the requirements. But it's not one you sort of go out of your way to play around. So it's just a solid, like, B-ish. I think Excavation Site in the early game is really strong. It's not necessarily only starting hand. Excavation Site is a much better starting hand card, but it can also be good in the mid game. We're doing sponsors. I don't think I'm going to do animals. There was some suggestion to do a reef tier list. I don't think it makes too much sense. What do I like more, Orca or Gorilla? I still prefer Gorilla Field Research, probably. I'd rate it slightly higher, although Orcas can be easier to hit. Yeah, exactly, Osmo. Orcas is just a card that you don't look for, but if you can play it, you're happy from a random draw. Franchise business. Still getting memed about because in my very first tier list for Marine World sponsor cards, I had this in S tier for I don't know what reason. But it's not an S tier card. You need to have a kiosk, which is the main annoying thing about it. The requirement to already have a kiosk. It's fine if you're upgrading builds, but if you're not upgrading builds, it's never worth spending a whole action to build a kiosk just to play this card. Having said that, it's alright on ice cream piles when you already have the kiosk for free from the map. Then that's an easy endgame shield to hit. And I guess in 3 and 4 player games, it does go up in value quite a bit because it gives you income based on the kiosks of every other zoo. If it's a 1v1, that's not a lot. If it's a 3 or 4 player game with new players who love to build kiosks, this can give you a lot of income. Yeah, I imagine new players starting out in 4 player games, this would be... I could see why people would think this is a broken card because if everyone's building kiosks, you just get all the money from it. But realistically, in 1v1, high level Arc Nova, it's pretty F tier. I would have Farmcat ahead of it just because of the occasional use for the Predator icon. Franchise business gives no icon like that. It's like side entrance, but better. Exactly, yeah. S tier in 4 player against 100 rated players. Yeah, this is going to be strictly 1v1 because that's what I play and that's what Arena is. Horse Whisperer. I think it has a lot of potential. I still really like the card. It's just extremely situational. The problem with petting zoos, as has always been the problem with them, is that unless species diversity is a project, they don't help with any other projects. Apart from the small animals project. It's trash most of the time. It's trash some of the time. I think I group it as sort of in the same boat as Waza Special Assignment, in that it is a card you can sort of play around in the early to mid game and get a lot of value from it. But I just, out of maybe 300 Arc Nova Marine World games, I've probably only got it to work 3 or 4 times. It just doesn't work out most of the time. You don't see it every game, and then when you do see it, it's either too early or too late, or you don't have the rep for a long time. But yeah, it's another card that's going to be better in 3 and 4 player games because you also get money from any time a petting zoo is played. The other cool ability is the instant ability. You get to search the discard pile for a petting zoo animal. Even if there isn't one there, you still get to see what other players have discarded, which is a fun little ability, so I like it for that as well. But in terms of reliable strength, I think in the right game it can be S tier, but that's just not very often, so I'll put it sort of low B tier. I still rate it pretty highly. but it's not as consistent is its problem. Yeah, if you can get triple petting zoo played after Horse Whisperer, it's so efficient that it is game breaking. But yeah, you have to have the right time to play the card, have the petting zoos already, or have at least a good way to get two of them or something. Yeah, three petting zoos is a huge amount of score. I was playing against Randella with it. Was it this Wednesday? It kept him in the game with because petting zoos is so cheap. It's just so easy to have 14 money and just bam, there's like 20 points. Landscape Gardener has great combos with Pavilion Build and Export on Asia. There's really like two ways you can play around this card. You either use it as a constant source of X tokens throughout the game, or you try to really play around it and use it as a point bomb card at the end of the game. And I've seen both. It's a bit of a meme strategy. I know a lot of people are trying to make it work, but just filling your map completely with pavilions and playing this card is about 40 appeal. Um, I don't know if it's definitely not a consistent strategy. You need a lot of pieces to set it up. But aside from the meme strategy, yeah, getting an X token every time you build a pavilion. If you upgrade build, you're getting an X token every time you build. Pretty good. Random posturing animals give you an X token as well as the pavilions. You can get the 3 posturing from the CP track rewards. So just pretty useful overall. And at minimum, when you play it, it always gives you 2 points and an X token. You get the point from the place in the pavilion, then you get 1 point for every pavilion, that's 2 points, and you get the X token for placing it. Yeah, it has a lot of good combos. So it's pretty solid. I'll have it top of A tier. I think I would still have it over Conference on Australia, although that's pretty close. Like Horse Whisperer, just find the horse. It would be fitting for the name. Or your opponent's hand. Don't give anyone ideas. Marine biologist. Typically, I don't rate the get 3 money when someone plays a species type cards that highly. Having said that, because Reef Animals are so strong, this has to be better than every other card of its type. When someone plays a Reef Animal, they're incentivized to play more of them. So if you have this against someone that is spamming Reef, you are going to get a lot of money from it. And then if you have this and Reef Animals, yeah, it's ridiculous. So just from consistency, reliability, I'd probably have it above these two. Just sort of B tier, high B tier. And then yeah, in 3 and 4 player games, even better. But even in 2 player games, I think it's still quite strong. Plus, it gives you the handy sea animal icon, which you need for something like field research type the orcas. Yeah, how annoying is it when your opponent has marine biologist out and you have all these good value reef animals that you want to play and you're just feeding them money? Marine Research Expedition is a really tough one to rank. Well, at least it was when I didn't have experience, but now I'm pretty sold on it. Every time you play a sea animal, you get to either Expedition, which is kill a person sponsor card from your zoo to get a conservation point. So at the end of the game, think of killing something like Explorer. It doesn't have any endgame points, so you're just trading Explorer for 1 conservation point, or something like a Marine Biologist, just kill that for a conservation point. So useful endgame ability, but then early and mid game, Scuba Dive 3. You can choose to reveal the 3 top cards, and if Their sponsors, you get to keep a sponsor. Particularly when you have some of the sponsor action cards, like snapping sponsors, just being able to get any sponsor for free is incredible. Just give you a sponsor for free, you can trade it with something from the display. With sunbathing sponsors, you can just sell any rubbish sponsor you get. With money sponsors, it gives you a lot more options of just stalling out rounds by getting a higher number of sponsors to play. So I'd have it slightly higher. I'll have it sort of low A tier, just below Conference on Australia, but still really good. And if Sea Animals is a base project, then it's easily S tier. Very good point, yeah. Scuba Dive 3. Sponsors aren't the easiest things to hit. Having said that, I've had games where I just can't hit any, and I've had games where I just hit sponsor after sponsor. Yeah, it's a good point as well. It's a good combo piece for field research type Orcas. It gives most of the requirements for it, the science tag and the sea animal icon. The science tag as well is very useful. Science is a lot more reliable in Marine World because of the new university, so it makes science combos a lot stronger. And this kickstarts. This can kickstart a science combo. That's what I mean. Even if you get a rubbish sponsor like a free range New World Monkeys, then you have a lot of options of just trading it or selling it, depending on the sponsor card you have. Mascot statue, otherwise known as Victory Column. Yeah, it's not exclusive to Marine World on Board Game Arena, but it is if you're playing in real life. It's just okay. I think it's probably the definition of a C tier almost. It feels kind of weird putting it under Horse Whisperer. It doesn't have a huge ceiling, it just has a really nice floor. If you play it round 1, it's guaranteed to give you the 1 appeal you get from playing it, and then you're probably going to have at least 3 more breaks, so it's 4 appeal, a little sponsor building shape, maybe an endgame. It's just okay. A tier and 4 player. Yeah, so the thing with that is it's 2 points for every zoo that has a higher appeal than you. So if it is a 4-player game, then you can get 6 endgame appeal from it. But I think it's just solid C tier. Honestly, I should probably remove a tier. I feel like there's too many tiers here. There's not many sponsors to go. Can probably just get rid of D tier and put Conference on Europe. Yeah, well, we can get rid of an F tier. Publications I like quite a lot. At very worst, this card gives you a science icon and a free donation. I guess at very worst, the donation is not free because someone else has already started donating. But that's a pretty good floor on it. And then the ceiling is, if you upgrade Association and have a big science engine, this card can be completely game-winning. Just think about the games where you have 5 or 6 science icons and now you're donating for 6 money cheaper every single donation. It makes the first 3 donations essentially free. So it has a lot of value for that. And then, yeah, it gives the handy science icon. I like this card quite a lot. It's just all around solid, like a Federal Grants or Science Library. Maybe a bit less upside than both of those. I guess more upside than Federal Grants, but I have it above Landscape Gardener, probably. It is one that I look out for, and one that I probably try to keep from my opening hand if I do see it. But that's pretty much the same with every sponsor here in A tier plus. It can definitely be a game-winning sponsor. And I think if you get it, you should look to upgrade Association with it, depending on how many science icons you have coming up. Reconstruction, definitely not a game-winning card. The best thing about it is the endgame bonus for filling map, which I found doesn't happen as much in my games lately because I'm not upgrading builds, though it has the ability to move around three of your buildings. I can say I have never used this ability, I don't think, not in Arena last season, because I would say I'm probably more likely to run out of thinking time than it is to actually help me fix up my zoo. It also gives you a Chaos and Pavilion when you play it, which is okay. But then the other thing is, after you play it, you just never get placement bonuses from your map again. So it's definitely not an early game card. It's sort of a late game card to, I guess, break glass in case of emergency. In case you really cooked your map, you can play it and then move some stuff around. So for me, it's easily bottom of D tier. I've played it much less than franchise business, and yeah, the best thing about it is the end game points. So maybe if you're already definitely going to fill map, you just keep it and play it like an engineer or something. Yeah, everything's D tier now. Yeah, I did see that Tobiko. Tobiko did make a cool reconstruction play yesterday. Shared it on the Discord. Had native farm animals played, got a lot of appeal from it, and then at the end game moved some buildings around to get maximum shields from it. I think 4 shields. So that is some high level use of it. You can definitely abuse it to get more native farm end game shields. That's very specific, and I still don't rate the card at all in most cases. The opinion on side entrance plus reconstruction. I think the ruling was that you can't move side entrance, although you can move other sponsor buildings, but the side entrance requirement is that it's on the edge of your map. So I don't think it's an actual combo. The only good combo is that they both have an end game bonus for filling your map. And last sponsor, Underwater Tunnel. Just pretty good. I mean, in the right game, extremely good. Probably like top of A. It's really close between these four, I think. But I do like Underwater Tunnel. The thing is, if you already have 2 full aquariums full of reef animals, then you're probably already winning the game. This just lets you win even more by housing more super efficient reef animals. But if you don't have aquariums, then this is a pretty useful just, I'll play a sponsor, get an aquarium, and now I can play my 1 sea animal. It's useful for that. If you have 2 aquariums, it gives some really nice endgame points. It also gives 2 appeal when you play it immediately. But if you have it touching both aquariums, then it's 5 appeal. So it definitely has some uses. The upgraded sponsor requirement is not a big deal. And it can help you fit in some of those bigger reef animals like the sharks and the manta ray. Excavation site. I think I need to make a special video just dedicated to excavation site spots, because it can definitely be a game-changing card out of the opening hand. Yeah, I agree. It's more of an early game card, but I think it is such a good early game card that it's deserving of S tier. Maybe not as consistent, because if you draw it later in the game, then it's useless, but you'd say the same thing about native farm animals, and most people have that as a top 5 sponsor card in the game, just because of how sort of game-changing it can be. I think Excavation Site is less powerful than native farm animals, but a similar power level from opening hand. I would need to do a lot of research, but yeah, it can definitely be a small little video idea for the different maps. It's like side entrance in a way. I think it's like side entrance, but it gives you a science icon and you don't have to play around it. I mean, it doesn't give you anywhere near as much money, but gives you more utility from extra X tokens or money or reputation. Or even double partners you on outdoor areas. But yeah, I don't think we'll be doing a Reef Animal tier list. If if I'm ranking the Reef Animals just on sort of the top three, I'd say the clownfish is probably number one. Then I'd say number two is probably the wrath, and then number three maybe the posturing one. I think those three are all amazing. X Token Dude is up there as well. Even the triggerfish, these are all just such good animals to play. The only thing about extra shift is it's hard to sort of like you play Wrath as the first animal, then you play two more Reef Animals in the same turn. You don't really need two extra shifts, whereas Appeal is just always useful, Posturing always useful, X Token always useful, Card Draw always useful, Constriction also can be brutal at the right time. Extra point for Designer Zoo. Less sold on Rep Fish. Definitely at the lower end. Reputation's a good reward, but the fact that it takes up 2 spots in the aquarium makes it a lot worse. Same as like CP Manta Ray. Really good ability, but taking up 4 spots in the aquarium is criminal. And then the other things like Booster So's Clever can definitely be useful, but less impactful, more situationally useful. Digging, same thing, situationally useful. And Money Dude's also pretty good. Yeah, exactly. 2 size dude, no good. Oh yeah, I forgot about Mr. Shark. I do love the shark as well. Just because it's so... I mean, it's such a good first reef animal, though. Like, you really can't go wrong with any of these. But it just takes up more space, it's more expensive. But Shark Attack as an ongoing ability can absolutely be game-winning as well. Yeah, I just said I wasn't going to rank them all, and then I just basically did, so... Yeah, I don't think I'm changing anything from that list. I agree, yeah. Nemo is... 2 appeal is a lot of appeal. It's like the aquarium for aquariums, just 2 appeal every time you play a reef animal. Oh, we're getting to this, JD. We are getting to... Oh, don't spoil that yet. The action cards. So just have to quickly change this around. Bam. Can even get rid of that. Plankton gang. Okay. The unique action cards. I think my thoughts on these have changed a little bit. I mean, we'll go through them in order. S plus tier is reserved for 1 card only. The rest of the cards will have to fight between S and D tier. Starting off with, I'd say one of the middle of the pack ones. Ignore requirement animals. If you do animals at strength 5, you can play 1 animal and ignore 1 condition from it, which does open up a lot of interesting lines that can surprise your opponent. Think something like playing a Japanese macaque in round 1 without the Asia Partner Zoo, just bam, double pilfer. The other big one is the New Zealand fur seal. Normally need the animals upgrade to play it, but now you can just play a fur seal with ignore requirement animals. So it does open up a lot of good lines. Even things like a Muskox in round 1 if you wanted to release it. If your opponent's having a super slow round, it's possible to just do Muskox release round 1. Yeah, that's the best application for it. Agree with all those. Pilfer, Constrict, Fur Seal. Yeah, also other great animals like Eagle Owl, Panda, yeah. It's not a D tier. I'd just have it B tier. It's one that is never actively bad. It's always useful to have. And if your opponent's actually trying to pay attention to what you're doing, it can be exhausting because you have a million more options open to you. You can play basically every animal um, towards the end of the game. Like nothing is out of reach to play. I agree, you do want to play two animals most of the time, but there are definitely some exceptions to that. You can also surprise your opponent by just playing a sun bear when you don't have Age of Partner Zoo. Actively bad because you have to click the button. I mean, its ceiling is game winning potentially if it can get you off to a good start. The problem is you don't know your opening hand when you're drafting these action cards. So if you're picking it blindly, there are a lot of times where it just doesn't have any use. So I'm hyping it up a lot, but that's just to keep people away from thinking it's C or D tier. I think it's just solid B tier. I have a lot of beef with Hunter Animals here. I think this card is actively bad. What this card tells you is any of those late game animals you want to keep throughout the game, like a rhino, eagle, panda, Galapagos tortoise, any of those point bomb animals, it says, if you want to keep this, I'm going to screw you over for the rest of the game by not activating my ability. And then it can even encourage you to throw away those good cards in hope that you hunt something useful, which is not guaranteed either. So, I mean, this to me is clearly a D tier card. It has, I mean, people keep telling me it has more use on Commercial Harbor, and I still can't make it work. It just the second that you get a card that you want to keep, it just becomes dead. Would it be overpowered if it lost the no animals requirement? Yes, I think it would. If it did a Hunter 4 after every animals action, yes, I think it would be S tier. The fact that it doesn't work if you have an animal in your hand makes it D tier. We got some Jackson hype in the chat. Thank you, Matt. Skill issue. I mean, it's also good to just have plans for later in the game, and if you don't have those plans, you can get completely stuck. Hunter 1 or 2 no requirement would balance it a bit better, but still pretty strong. What if it was one animal in hand? If it still did Hunter 4, if you were allowed to keep one animal in hand, then it would still be S tier, I think. Yeah, exactly. That's the other thing. If you're playing in real life, you have to actually prove to the other players that you don't have an animal, so you have to show them your whole hand. And yeah, that's the other thing. It makes you extremely predictable. As when I see my opponents use this ability, I know two things. I know one, they don't have any more animals in their hand, and two, if they hunt an animal, I know exactly what that animal is. So it makes it easy to play around. Yeah, you get punished for taking hand size, yes, because you can't discard your animals during the break. Anyway, enough bagging on hunter animals. Discount animals. I like it. Unupgraded just gives you a discount of 2. Upgraded, you can exchange 2 money for 1 appeal. Always useful. You can always use a discount of money from animals. Late game, maybe not always useful, but has a lot of ceiling if you have that extra money. It can make your final cross better. You're playing animals as the last action. You get 2 more appeal for nothing. Just really, really useful overall S tier. It's one that you're never unhappy to have because it always gives you a benefit. I think the only thing is it can lead you to upgrade animals a bit later because you don't have a lot of money early on most of the time. So you do keep getting the discount. You do want to keep getting the discount. You don't necessarily want to trade extra money for appeal early on. So it can lead to animals getting upgraded a bit later than normal. And then if you're not upgrading animals in your first two actions, it can be hard to sometimes find the time to get the third upgrade. So exactly, I like it. I love it. Yeah, it feels bad to upgrade early. That's the only bad thing about it. I do often forget about the discount. It's just easy to look at the card and think, okay, I need 16 money. I have 16 money. Let's go. Yeah, and it can enable a lot of early game animals that aren't usually playable. I know in the last video, JD mentioned that you can play the Humphead Wrasse with the discount from the animals without needing to cover 5 money on the map. I mean, I did this tier list just mainly based on vibes. But I did look at I did look at the sort of win rates and performance rates of the action cards after that, but it is not going to influence this list. This is just based on my own experience playing. Mark animals. It's always a... There are a lot of times where I have the option of both of these cards, and I still don't know which one to pick, but I think I'm leaning more towards Mark animals. It creates a lot of threats on the display. Say there's just a sort of average card that's maybe relevant to one of the projects, like, I don't know, there's a Scarlet Macaw that's just sitting in folder 2. It's not easy for either player to get. You just mark it, you get it during the next break. It's a very useful animal to have later. If you're in the opponent's position, do you have to snap it away? Do you have to actively draw it away? It's pretty annoying to deal with constantly throughout the game. And then there are just some good synergies for having extra of any card. It's extra cards to pouch or sunbathe. Obviously on Commercial Harbor, it's extra cards to sell consistently. Well, that's nice if you can trust the other players around the table that they won't lie. I think in a competitive setting, I don't know, maybe you could show a judge or something, but I don't think it would be that outrageous for the players to want to know that you're telling the truth. That was going back to Hunt Animals. Then it also has, Mark Animals has the ability of, if you play an animal from range that has your mark on it, it gives you a reputation. It comes up sometimes. It can, yeah, be useful for that extra rep. But it's just mainly the threat of being able to mark stuff and getting it. The great thing is that you get it after you discard your hand. So it's like starting the next round with extra cards. It's just really good timing on getting the cards. I think if it marked before play would be a little bit too strong for the upgraded side. So I do like that the mark is after the action. It's still really strong, even with that ordering. Hand size at home. Yeah, it's like a way of working around hand size. Yeah, BDW is right. It would be so overpowered. It's like every animal's action gives you 2 reputation now guaranteed. Pretty funny. That is all the animals. So we move on to association. This association lets you take partner zoos from the supply instead of the association board. So it's like a double-edged sword. If you, I mean, the good thing is that your opponent can't block you from getting the partners who you want in round 1. The bad news is that you can't block your opponent from getting the partners who they want in round 1. So, eh. Don't really know what else to say. Upgraded has some useful or some funny abilities to get, say, 3 of the same partner zoo. If you have Americas as a project, you can grab 3 Americas partner zoos and basically be guaranteed to do 5 Americas. But at the same time, it's sort of a bad thing as well, because a huge part of getting partner zoos is opening up your options to, I don't know, say you have an Americas and an Africa partner zoo. Now you can play a hippo, but if you have 3 Americas partner zoos, you can't play the hippo. You just get super discount on the Americas animals. If it's upgraded, you can also take extra unis. So, I mean, that can be fun to get all the double science unis with the science museum. Gives you option, opens up a lot more conservation points from that. But yeah, situational, it's not one that I'd actively look to draft. It's pretty clearly D tier. Can you dig away marked on display? Yeah, if you dig away a marked card, it goes straight into your hand. Pretty good combo. Yeah, exactly. Ice cream, going back to mark animals, yeah, ice cream piles, you can just mark and you get to pouch at the perfect time start of next round, yeah. I feel like hunter animals should be on its own separate tier. No, I think there's a lot of D tiers that all deserve to live together. Would it be okay if you could choose to take weather from the board or supply? That would make it a lot better for sure, yeah. Actually, I kind of like that change. Now, if you do want to block your opponent, you just can. I don't think it would make it too strong either. I actually kind of like that change. Yeah, exactly. It also, because if both players start with 2 Americas and Americas is a project, it just leads to break chicken situations, which is something that I think the game should always avoid trying to have, because it's just the least amount of fun you can have in Ark Nova. Having a situation where neither player wants to cause the break. Of course, I mean, if your opponent has 3 Asia partner zoos and the display is all Asia tags, then yeah, that's going to be rough. But it works both ways. If they don't find Asia animals, they just have a lot of partner zoos for no reason. It can definitely be useful to stack up multiple of the same partner zoo for a project. No, JD. Hunter animals is definite D tier. All right. Hyrosos. Lot of debate around this one. There's one certain member of the community that's trying to convince everyone it's an A tier card or a B tier card. So start off by saying, from practice and looking at stats and everything, the blue side of this card is completely useless. You almost never want to actually hire a worker at 5. It's probably even actively bad for your game to do it. The problem is when you hire the worker, they're both stuck on the association board, so you're essentially giving up your round 1. And if you're not grabbing a partner zoo round 1, it means probably no project round 2. It also means you're slower to get your first upgrades if you were just going to grab a university instead. Now at the start of round 2, you're just grabbing your first university, which means no upgrades till round 3. So just a lot of bad things about it. However, the upgraded side, you can use additional workers to reduce the required strength of an action by 2, which is the useful part of it. It can definitely be strong. In the right situation where you're causing the break a lot, and you're starting with your association at 3, like you can do a project and not have to spend any X tokens for it, that is a really powerful use of it. But it's rare that you know you're going to have that sort of game beforehand during the draft. You'd need to have a lot of projects, and you need to know that you want to upgrade association to make it happen. Just a lot of pieces need to fall in the right order. But I think it has more upside than the other cards, so I'll put it at the bottom of C tier. That'll also make Panda happy. Good in 4-player games, okay. So the argument is it's good in 4-player games when the other players take the things that you wanted to take anyway. I could see it being useful in 4-player. That's an interesting point as well, Lizcar. On in Map Pack 2, which I actually have not had that much experience playing, there are a lot of maps where you get an upgrade from getting a university and a partner zoo. So that is a combo you could actually do in round 2. You spend one of the workers grabbing a uni, one of the workers grabbing a partner zoo, then you get an upgrade. That's actually probably needs some more testing done when the Map Pack 2 does come out on Board Game Arena. Hey, no wait, solid D. No, I think the upgraded side is actually C tier worthy. I mean, I would draft it ahead of every action card that's coming up in D tier, just for the potential upside of upgrading it and using it. Too easily punished. I'm definitely not advocating to hire a worker, but I think upgraded is the way for you to punish opponents by causing the break really quickly and just being able to do projects and playing very efficiently while the other person can't keep up. Yeah, I'm not I'm not saying hire a worker at all. Shut up, JD. Hire you draft hunter animals over ignore requirement animals. No, not in a million years. Okay, X token assoc, the actual good association. Very solid A tier. Blue side has useful, especially if your association starts on strength 5, you just feel like a genius because you just get an X token. And then even sort of mid game, most of the time you do want to do association when it comes to the right strength. For example, when association is now at strength 3, you want to grab a partner zoo. You don't really want to wait because you want to keep cycling through your association action. But I mean, it's pretty useful. Say your association just starts at strength 5 for the start of round 2, which is a pretty common scenario. If you're grabbing a university, it's another X token. Then the upgraded side is your donations are cheaper for every X token you have, which can honestly add up. You can save a lot of money on donations doing that. So I think just really solid overall. There's no downside to having it. It can give you a good number of X tokens, and it can also make donations a lot cheaper at the end of the game. And it has a really good combination with Vet. You can now do projects at strength 5 and still get an X token. I like that combo a lot. Hello, Bob. Great with the, yeah, it has a good combination with the trading X token sponsor. Waiting for the for sale house tier list. I agree. I think you can definitely get more than 2 X tokens from it throughout the game. Great with clever cards as well. Yes, good combination with that for sure. It's just one I'm always happy to draft. The other good thing about drafting it first is, with something like sponsors in particular, all of the sponsor actions are good. So if you're drafting money sponsors first, then you get past something like sunbathing sponsors, you can't grab both. But you don't have to worry about that with X token association because all of the other association actions are garbage. So if you're drafting this first, you never have to worry about missing out on a good association card from the second pack. Can forget vet and be rewarded for it. Exactly. That is another safeguard. I like to call this one determination association. I guess other people call it self-clever association. Blue side has some very rare use cases. I guess mostly used in round 1. You can have your association at 5 and then surprise break with sponsors at 5, which is a pretty common play pattern to happen actually. The upgraded side I do like a little bit. Instead of donating, you can draw a card from range. I think that is a pretty useful ability, particularly in the mid game where you've taken the cheap donations and It just gives you a card for free when you don't want to donate. But also tactically, if you want to draw a card from range, it's just, yeah, nice. You can grab a partner zoo and draw a card. Wow, it's pretty good. Having said that, I'd still rather nearly every other action ahead of it. So, bottom of D tier. Good in 4-player games. I'm not even convinced about that. 4-player games, you have a lot less control over the break. So sometimes the rounds are longer, and then sometimes all the other players can just break in a sudden. In fact, I'd say it's more likely that in 2-player games, you're more likely to have longer rounds. 4-player games also do tend to finish faster, so I think there's probably actually less time spent hanging around in rounds. It's a good question. Do I think Assos cards were intentionally underpowered because it's by far the best action in the game? I don't think so. I'm not sure why, but yeah, 3 out of the 4 of them just kind of ended up being a bust. I'm struggling to think of other abilities that you could give these cards instead, but you definitely don't want to make them too strong because, yeah, associating is already a very strong ability, so maybe that is part of it. Isn't Sponsors the best action card in the game? Yeah, Sponsors we'll get to in a sec. They're all pretty damn good. It's C tier. Mm, I still wouldn't pick Determination Assos ahead of any of these, even Worker Assos. I can't justify putting it higher. I'd still definitely draft higher Assos. Good with clever cards. Yes and no. I mean, yes, you can get your association at 5 out of the way, but this is only really relevant for rounds 1 and maybe round 2. At the end of the game, it does nothing. Hmm. Has upgrading Assos become less popular? Because I've found myself probably with Marine World upgrading it more often. I think in terms of the meta progression, we have seen sponsors become a more prevalent upgrade. But I think we're also getting to the point where it's good to. I think a lot of players are realizing it's good to upgrade both association and sponsors, and maybe instead of build and cards, for example. So I still have an over 50% upgraded association rate. I don't think it's bad to upgrade it. Pavilion build. Definitely the best of all the build actions. It's a little bit like the discount animals on the red side, but you get to start with it from the start of the game. In addition to your build action, you can build an extra pavilion for 3 money. Upgraded, it just makes the pavilion cost 2 money, so I mean, if it's upgraded, it's helpful for filling map. If it's not upgraded, it's really useful for getting these small annoying bonuses. Or just being able to position buildings. You can now build a pavilion to bridge a little gap and then fit a 5-size enclosure. It's really useful for things like that. And then if you want to be pretty degenerate, you also have like these little annoying, I'll build a kiosk and a pavilion move in round 1. Not really advocating for people to do that very often, but I have used it. I think I used it in a game a couple of days ago. Like, if you want to get your build action out of the way anyway, it's probably worth it just build a kiosk and pavilion in the same turn. It's not bad. Yeah, I do like it a lot. This one has been influenced a bit by the performance statistics, so I was always tossing up between high A and low S. I think it probably deserves to go at the end of S. Maybe I'll reassess at the end. Oh, I think even with outside entrance, it's just very good. Yeah, and it's good for upgrading and not upgrading build. I think it's just very useful for both. Criminal? Kiosk build, very similar. The difference is you get to build extra kiosks. So this one I'd say is just completely useless upgraded side, because how many turns do you want to build two kiosks? I guess maybe it now upgraded allows you to build, say, a 3 size, a 1 size, a pavilion, and a kiosk. But unupgraded, I do like it. I think it fills a very similar role to pavilion build. If you're not planning on upgrading build, then it does give you a bit of extra income, as well as just helping you bridge the gaps on the map, helping you get hard to get placement bonuses. So I do think it has quite a bit of value. I'll put it like B tier, just below no requirement animals. Although you could definitely swap those two around. I would draft them about with equal priority. Third best build action. I got some news. I think it's the second best build action. I think it is very good for no build. So I know a lot of people hate on it, but I'm a small fan of it. Yeah, here it is, +1 build. Last video, JD was trying to convince me this was. Someone actually remember what tier JD wanted to put it in? Because I think we compromised at B tier. Maybe we compromised at C tier. But I definitely wanted to put it in the lowest tier, and JD was advocating for it to put it in maybe 1 or 2 tiers higher. I don't see what this build action does at all. Best use case. I want to build a 5 size at the very start of the game. My association is at 5 blocking it. So now I can build my 5 size, play an animal, and release it. Wow. There's not many times you want to build a larger enclosure than what your build is, because you don't want to be cycling through your build action as much as the other cards. You want to get build at 5 and then just use it to get it out of the way. You don't want to be doing build at 3 and then being like, oh boy, build is coming back up again, my favorite action. Really good on ice cream parlors. I mean, it has the small use cases of being able to build in the top left and cover the reputation and the card draw in the first turn of the game, yeah. Yeah, with the upgraded build actions of the previous two, you can choose the order of when you want to build that additional kiosk or pavilion. You get to choose the order of that. Yeah, the upgraded side of this is you can build. I mean, you still get the extra strength, but you can now build the same type of building more than once. The same standard enclosures, so like it doesn't work with pavilions or anything. If you wanted to build a couple of 2 size enclosures, you can. Occasionally useful, not very useful. Straight to the bottom of D tier. This is the worst card by far. And I'm not moving this away from the bottom rank. Now a pretty tricky one to rate because it's so different depending on the map that you're on. Build over rock and water. So on maps such as Research Institute and outdoor areas, when it allows you to get the university or partner zoo in round 1 or even turn 1, then it probably goes straight to S plus tier, because it can get you off to some crazy starts that otherwise wouldn't be possible. Then situationally, it's a good break glass in case of emergency card. If you completely destroy your map, similar to like a reconstruction, this will allow you to cover some rock and water spaces to fit in a 5 size that you otherwise couldn't. So it has some use for that. And then upgraded, it's pretty decent. It just saves you 2 money for every build action you take if you cover a rock and water. At the same time, when you do that, you're further away from filling your map because you're covering the rock and water that doesn't need to be covered to fill the map. So I think it's definitely overrated by a lot of players, myself included. When I was first doing the tier list, I think I rated it way higher than it should be. But in reality, for me, it's just a low B tier. I have it below Chaos Build. I would draft Chaos Build ahead of this on 6 out of the 8 maps available. Yeah, it has some uses. That's why it's B tier. I just think I'd rather have every action card ahead of it. And we are getting to a lot of the good action cards with sponsors coming up. Alright, no discard cards or keep cards. When you do cards at 5, you get to draw 3 and keep all 3. When you do cards at 3, I mean, you just never have to discard cards. So the important breakpoints are doing cards at 5 gets you 3, doing cards at 3 gets you 2, doing cards at 1 gets you 1. How often do you want to do cards at 1? Probably never, but... a lot of people want to chuck this in D tier. I don't really get the hate that it has. I think it's just a fine, non-offensive card. It's not the best ability, but I think there are plenty of times where you just want to fill up your hand when you don't have that many cards. There are times when you want the extra cards for sunbathing or pouching, or maybe you have one of the sponsors action that wants extra cards, then it's just useful to get extra cards. And then occasionally when you're just in the middle of round 1 and you have your cards at 3, you just get to draw 2 cards. Like, I think it has a lot of benefit. And then it has the obvious synergy with Commercial Harbor, which seems to make half of these action cards just straight up better. But yeah, having extra cards with the guaranteed sunbathing, it's just extra money every card's action. So it's still not amazing, but I do have it top of C tier ahead of Hierosos. It's not like I drafted ahead of anything ahead of it, but I would be okay getting this back as a second action if there was nothing else better. The desktop folders are not sorted properly. Now that you've mentioned it, I probably won't be able to unsee that. That is a bit of a weird placement. Oh, and also, those are the 6 folders on the actual Arc Nova board, right? That's pretty funny. At least they spelt Sydney correctly in this one. That is a good question. What is this zoo getting hidden behind the Does anyone actually know that? I mean, it doesn't seem like that long of a name. I was thinking maybe like Kolkata, but I don't think so. I don't think that's how you spell it. It's a good little quiz question for anyone that has knowledge on that. Digging cards, pretty good. I was a lot higher on it before, not as high on it now. The performance statistics have sort of swayed my view on that. But I mean, the great thing about it, why I loved it a lot early on, is that it gives you a lot more just control over the display. If your opponent has threatening cards, you just dig them away. You can dig them away from strength 1 if it's a card that you really need to get rid of. It's a little bit inefficient to do that, but can definitely be used in extreme cases. And then the great thing about the upgraded side is you can just dig the cards that you want into reputation range. So instead of snapping up a card with an upgraded cards action, you just dig it into range for yourself and draw it up normally. And then even upgraded or non-upgraded, it just always gives you more options of cards to see. You just dig something from your hand and you're essentially seeing 4 cards instead of 3 cards. So always has use case for that. Very good when you need to deny your opponent. Very good when you want to dig stuff into range. Just overall, pretty solid A tier. Yeah, it has a good combination with mark animals. You can mark the animals, then dig them straight into your hand. Very useful for that. And still a fan of it. I think I had it in S tier before, but I don't know. It's a close one. I think it's probably just A tier. Snapping cards. Basically the normal cards action, except you can now snap at strength 3 or 4 instead of having to wait till 5. Upgraded, you can now snap at strength 2. At strength 5, you can double snap. I think... I don't know, it seems like a lot of people disagree, but I don't rate this at all. It's obviously going to be game-changing if you can now snap a really important card before your opponent. So it's probably most relevant in round 1, but it also has that threat throughout the game. The thing is, a lot of players oversnap cards already, so this is just encouraging people to do cards at 3 and snap up so many cards that they don't necessarily need. It's not one that I actively look to draft. If I get it back as a second option and there's just complete rubbish as my other choice, I'll probably take it because it's never like bad to have, but I'm never going out of my way to draft this card. I think it'd be a complete mistake to do that. Works well with Mark, works well against Mark. Or digging. Digging and snapping, I guess. Digging is interesting because you can, if your opponent does mark animals, you can dig them into their hand straight away and then make them discard during the break. So that can be a fun combination. It's C below no discards. Yeah. I mean, I would still draft Hire a Worker Association over this. I mean, I've played with snap cards a few times and I just don't find myself using the ability at all. It's basically just a blank card. Clever Cards is a decent cards action though. I'm also a little bit lower on this. The great thing about it is that you can get into a cycle where you just do a cards action, clever build out of the way, and then build is below cards again. So then the next time you want to do cards, you clever build out of the way. So it can save you a lot of strength and tempo doing that. I think the problem becomes towards the end of the game, you just don't want to use the cards action at all. So early game at 2 money is a little bit expensive to use. Mid game, when you've upgraded it, or even unupgraded, it's fine to use. But then late game, you just don't want to do a cards action. Like the last round, you are not doing a cards action. Second last round, you might do one, so it can be useful for that. But towards the end of the game, it just has no value because you're not using that action. I mean, yeah, it's an alternative to Xing back an action. Sometimes there are also times where you just don't want to break 2. I mean, there are a ton of times where I don't want to break 2, but I want to get an action out of the way, and then Clever Cards doesn't do anything. But I'm hyping it down a lot. It's still solid A tier. I still have it above half of the action cards in the game. It doesn't give you the X, but it does give you basically 2 clevers. Prefer clever on a Sos. I mean, you know, clever on a Sos would be pretty strong if you could actually use a Sos and then clever something down. I think that would be pretty broken. But yeah, it's just on an action that it's also on an action that you probably do want to clever. Cards is one of those actions that you want to get out of the way instead of having to use it. So still pretty good A tier. Trading sponsors. Where did I put this? I think out of all the sponsors, probably the worst one. So I have it at the bottom of A tier. Still really good, obviously. It has a lot of just useful situations unupgraded. Early game trading an X token for 5 money is a lot of money to get. Pretty easy to, say, cover an X token on the map, then play a sponsor and get 5 extra money. That's a big deal early on. And then upgraded later in the game, it's pretty damn useful as well. Say you want to do a break 7 action to cause the break, you can now trade some of that money you just got for an X token to start next round. You don't have to blow all your X tokens causing the break and then have none left over. And then it also has some good uses of being able to trade money or an X token for reputation, which I actually do use a decent amount. Can be really useful for just getting to 8 reputation, for example, or just getting to 15 or 16. And kind of like the opposite problem we talked about with association, the problem is that all of the sponsor cards are very good. So if you are drafting this first, then it feels kind of bad if you get past one of the other sponsor cards, because you just can't take 2 sponsor cards. Money sponsors, straight to S plus tier. Still ridiculous. Gives, I mean, it gives you guaranteed money if you just use it to break. There's basically no downside to this. There are some games where it does very little when you're playing good sponsors, but sponsors that don't generate money. Think things like Tech Institute. Great sponsor, doesn't give you extra money, so money sponsors doesn't help with that. But then just completely game winning if you get cards such as Science Library. Every time you play a science icon, you're now getting money, which is upgraded 5 extra money. Explorer, every time you play a new tag, 5 extra money. Geologist or Hydrologist, now every time you place a sponsor building on your map, 5 extra money. And 5 money is a lot of money. And then just using the upgraded side to break 5, you're now getting 15 money instead of 10 money. Money is just converted to appeal to win games. If you have more money, you have the potential to get more appeal. You can stay in rounds longer, force your opponent to cause the break. Explorer's game winning itself. I mean, if you get money sponsors and Explorer, it's pretty hard to lose, I would say. Yeah, exactly. Turn 1 play excavation site on money. Depending on where you place it, yeah. I mean, I'm sure you can lose with Explorer and money sponsors. You can lose with anything. Yeah, exactly. It also has the very degenerate break 1 with an upgraded sponsor action to get 7 money. If your opponent is messing around in a round, then you can use a break 1 action as sort of a warning for them. Like, if you don't cause the break, I'm going to keep doing this and get 20 money, and then I can play 2 animals immediately. Like, that is a scary prospect. So you do have to play a bit differently if you're up against money sponsors. Yeah, very oppressive to play against. Sunbathing sponsors, not quite on the same tier, but very good. I have sunbathing sponsors. I had it bottom of S tier. It's above Pavilion build, I think. Unupgraded, it's a little bit annoying that you have to discard a sponsor card to get the extra money, but I think most of its power is from the upgraded side. You can discard any card to either gain 4 money, which is useful, or you can essentially use it like hire a worker association to get extra sponsor strength, which is honestly something that I forget about a lot. I mainly just use it to get the money, but I should actually remember that you can use it to get increased strength. So if you can use it as like saving 2x tokens, it's a pretty big deal. Yeah, fantastic on Hollywood Hills, as are pretty much all of the sponsor cards. But this one in particular, if you get a bad sponsor, then you can just sell it for 4 money. if you get multiple good sponsors and you have sponsors upgraded, then you can just play them all at once very easily. It just has a lot of good use cases for it. And yeah, even for money, if your opening hand is pretty rubbish and you get some bad sponsors, you can just trade them for 4 money. Think something like Reconstruction or Farm Cat. You just pick it out of the opening hand if everything else is bad, and you just get 4 money for it, which is better than discarding a card. And finally, snapping sponsors or marketing sponsors. I have this as the second best action card in the game, just below money sponsors. It's meant to be a counter to it, but I don't think in practice it works out that well. Anyway, pretty game-changing ability on both sides. On the blue side, you can trade a sponsor card from your hand for any on the display, and then play it immediately. So again, similar to sunbathing sponsors, you just take some, I don't know, bad or mid sponsors from your opening hand, and you can trade them with the best sponsor that's on the display. Think about how often there's an explorer sitting there, or maybe an ornithologist with birds as a project. You just get to take that and play it first move of the game. It can be really game winning to be able to do that. And then upgraded has potentially even stronger ability. You can just use it to cause the break, discard a card, and then play a sponsor for money. So it's like the best of both worlds. You can cause the break while playing sponsors yourself. It gives you a whole tempo up on your opponent. Because say your opponent wants to play a sponsor normally, you're just causing the break and doing it at the same time. And then they have to start next round like playing a sponsor while you're already doing your animals action. Change hunter animals to this. You can discard an animal to take an animal. That'd be pretty damn broken. But yeah, you can see how ridiculous it sounds on with animals, and now it's just the same with sponsors. It's still a really ridiculous idea in the right circumstances. It can be completely game winning. So I'm pretty comfortable having that as the second best action card. And yeah, now the decision is going to be, do we want Pavilion build as S tier or A tier? I think it's probably fine sitting in S tier. It's like, it can go either way, but... Yeah, exactly. It's a terrible feeling when you have sponsors you want to play, but you also understand that you need to cause the break because your opponent has more workers or more money, and this just solves that situation, which happens a lot of games. So really strong. Oops, wrong one. That's the tier list done. So then I also wanted to go over some... I just got to make sure that we get all the sizing right for this. I guess this is fine, probably. This is a little website, Looker Studio. So I'm not very familiar with tech stuff, but Tobiko has been compiling some statistics from game logs on Board Game Arena. I don't know the... Okay, I mean, the answer's right here. 20,000 game logs. Just sort of... For this particular section, it's looking at how all the different action cards perform. So, for example, if we wanted to look at +1 build, we can look at +1 build only. And it's going to tell you it's been taken in 1,379 of these games. It has an actual win percentage of 36.77%. Based on the strength of the player taking it and the opponent, you can see that a lot of lower rated players tend to take it instead of the higher rated players. So it's one that gets overrated by low players. And the expected win rate is just based on, the rating of the player taking it and the rating of the opponent. So a player of this rating would be expected to win 38.8% of the time against a player of that rating, but in actuality, they only win 36% of the time, so it gives it a negative performance. It performs worse than expected. So therefore, you can conclude that it's just a worse than expected action. But yeah, really useful. I'll put a link to this in the description of the stream if anyone's interested in looking at it. You can also use it to compare the actions against each other. Like, you can compare how does having +1 build go if your opponent has money sponsors. You can see it happened 169 times. The +1 build player won 27% of those times, but they were expected to win 32%, so it has a terrible performance rating. And you can see the massive rating difference of the players taking these cards. But what I have done with that, or just very quickly this afternoon, just check that's all visible. Yes. Maybe zoom in a bit more here. Yeah, that should be good. Very white. Sorry about how white it is, but this is all the performance ratings of all the action cards for the 20,000 games that have been logged. So I mean, we can just quickly go through it type by type. So for animals here, not having a unique action card is sort of the baseline. It has a performance of 1, which is expected. But then you can see things like Mark Animals does perform really well. It has an actual win rate of 54% when it was only expected 50.77%. So it has a performance of 1.06. Makes it better than normal. Discount Animals also slightly better than normal. Higher win rate than expected. And then things like Hunter Animals and Ignore Animals are worse. 95 and 93. Yes, I have been helping collect the game logs, but I haven't been helping to organize sort of any of the data or anything. I think Tobiko's been doing a ton of work on this. Can see from association that X token association is the only one that performs above average. Just having the normal association card is better than all the other 3. It's basically saying that taking these are kind of worse than just not having a power with it. Or what it's saying is that you're better off taking other action cards than these ones. It's just better to have a normal association card and a different unique action card. But you can see supply association actually surprisingly is pretty in line with expectations. The self-clever or determination association is a bit lower, and then yeah, higher association is the worst performing action card out of everything, which is a little bit counterintuitive to how I view all the action cards. So if I wanted to create a narrative around that, I'd say it's people actually trying to hire a worker with it and not just using it for the upgraded ability side. And yeah, it's people not understanding how to play with it properly, but it has a terrible win rate. High risk skill issue because people are hiring, yeah. Hello, Shagan. Imagine it as a pistol with a grip to the left. I think that can sometimes help a little bit, but then when you start having to like rotate it around, it's very easy for me to get them flipped upside down. So I don't know. It's still a skill issue for me with Amazon Health. Need more data points. For the build actions, Pavilion build is the best performer. Chaos build is pretty close behind it. I mean, Pavilion build has an actual win rate of 59%, which is the highest out of everything. But yeah, it's also expected to be higher than almost everything because stronger players are taking it more often than lower rated players are. And we can actually see terrain build, build over rock water, and +1 build are just performing worse than just having a different build action. So that does sort of agree with my narrative that people are overrating it. And it's sort of like the stronger players are taking it because they're expected to win over 50% of the time, but they're winning less than 50% of the time. So the better players are slightly overrating this card, I think. Cards is the really interesting one. What these cards games are telling us is that you're better off picking the other unique actions instead of just any of the card ones. Because the best performer is just the basic cards action. Digging cards is still above average with 1.01. Clever cards is slightly below average. Still winning 53% of the time, but that's because they're higher rated players taking it, so they're expected to win more often. But yeah, winning slightly less than they should. And then, yeah, keep cards, no discard cards, snap cards, they're pretty similar in terms of expectation versus win rate. Still lower than expected for both. Sponsors, you can see just how strong they all of them are. I mean, even not having a sponsor action. I mean, that's to be expected. But I mean, even the worst one in snap sponsors, which is surprising to me, is still performing basically as expected. And money sponsors is just so far ahead of the pack that yeah, it's not close. Money sponsors players are expected to win 58% of the time. Sorry, 54% of the time, and they end up winning 58% of the time. So, but all the sponsors actions perform reasonably well. And yeah, so I'll leave a link to this little studio. It also has some other cool stats with it. We can look at player stats. And we can zoom out again. Oh no, we're already zoomed out. One cool thing is, for certain players like myself, you can look at your individual stats, but this is, I think, only for a number of the higher rated players, but this tells me, well, it shows how much I've been upgrading every build, every action card over time. So you can see starting out that I very rarely upgraded sponsors, which was kind of the meta at the time. And then as I've played more, I've been upgrading it more. You can see the drastic reduction from upgrading build nearly every single game to upgrading build now currently 22% of the time. But it's pretty fun to track all this. And you can see association in the green. I did start off upgrading it at 80%. Went down as sponsors went up, but now it's sort of back at around 48%. So yeah, about 50%. I don't know much about the collection. I just know that it's basically like opening up Windows in a different tab for the replays, and then it just collects all that information. Yeah, plug and install by it's installed by a few players. It just collects logs in the background. Yeah, full credit to Biko for this. But I mean, that was pretty much the point of the stream. In the poll that I did, there was still a number of votes for people wanting to see updated player stats, sort of the what top players do series. So we might look at that next week. I'll see if I can get some more interesting stats than just the BGA stats that are available. So I think we'll aim to do that next Friday. But otherwise, that is it for today. So thanks all for tuning in. Have a good rest of the day, and we'll see you guys on Sunday for BGA gameplay, or for the Arc Nova people only, we'll see you guys on Wednesday for Arc Nova Wednesday. But yeah, thanks for watching, and catch you guys later. Good night.